All right, back again, Luke here. And as you can see in front of you, this is another one of those boards that we got in that lot from Ken and Jen. This happens to be a Nintendo PC-10 or Playchoice 10, as it's known. And I've seen this board before online. I've seen some pictures of it, and I've seen the cabinet with the games running in it, but I've never actually physically had a PCB. So this is really neat. Looking at the board itself, it does have 10 slots, obviously, hence the name the PC-10. And it has what I'm guessing is like the EEPROMs here for the BIOS and whatnot. These are the CPUs for it. And yeah, it's supposed to be a really cool little setup. The story on this one in particular, from what I heard from Ken, was that he had this running in his cabinet and the power supply wound up burning out, so he ordered a new power supply online. And when it arrived, the manufacturer had crossed the plus 5 volts and the negative 5 volts. So when he plugged this in, he said it was booting okay, but when he went to try to select a game, it wouldn't register. So I can only assume that it's probably burned out one of the points like resistor arrays or something responsible for registering the switches for start and select. But hopefully it won't be too bad of a repair and we can get this thing back to its former glory. But it's such a beast of a board here. When you look at the bottom of it, I mean, that looks kind of cool, right? But it does have a battery, looks like for maybe save files or save game data. And it has two of these harnesses up front, or two of these pinouts. Really weird looking ones. This one is a 20, no, what is this one? 36, and this one's a 44. Very odd. But he did send me a picture of the pinouts for this, so we're going to go ahead and see what we can do. I did pick up a few different parts here. So I've got a couple of these connectors, and I've got a handful of wires. Well, I'm going to need more than that. But apparently there's quite a few wires that need to be wired up to this, and since I don't have an edge connector for it, I'm just going to have to make one from scratch. So the next thing you'll probably see is this thing with a maybe fully wired connector. I don't know how long this is going to take, but in video magic, it's only going to take a couple of seconds. So we'll get on that, and I'll see you here in a little bit. So after a bit of some wiring, we have this creation here. This is the harness that I've built up using some spare wires and whatnot, but very interesting that a lot of the underside here, almost everything on the underside as far as the pins were used, but nothing was used on the top, and the same over here. Very, very strange for Nintendo to do something like that. Whereas most of the pins for the top pinouts, especially for RGB or Player 1, would be on the top, and then for Player 2 would be on the bottom. This is a really odd setup for this. Something I've never seen before, but I have this. I also have 4 buttons wired up here because apparently it needs 4 different buttons. This is new territory for me, so I'm not exactly sure. And I haven't plugged this thing in yet, so I figured we'll go ahead and do that. And maybe if all goes well, we can figure out what does what. But let's plug this beast in here and test some of that. Hopefully this thing turns on. Let's give it a go. Okay, well, it's doing something. Looks like the sink's off. Let me see if I have a screwdriver around here. I don't have a screwdriver. Let me... I will be back. Give me just a second. All right, so I found my screwdriver here, and I tried to adjust the sink on this, and unfortunately, I can't get the sink to line up here. You can see that it says Battletoads in there, but none of the other buttons are working, and like I said, adjusting the sink here on my Super Gun, I'm not getting anything at all. So I'm wondering if maybe this is similar to the, what is it, like older Sega boards sometimes, or even the Taito boards where the sync just doesn't work with most monitors. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my CGA to VGA converter and see if that maybe changes this and makes it sync up a little bit better. But as of right now, this is not syncing properly. So we'll get on that, and I'll see you in a bit. Doing a bit of probing here, I was able to figure out that the sync line runs up to resistor 19. So I think the next thing we're going to do is try and maybe remove resistor 19 and see if we can put in a different valued resistor, see if that stabilizes the picture. Unfortunately, my CGA to VGA converter did not do anything. It didn't even help a bit. So I'm going to try and change that out and see if we get a better picture after that. Well, having not a lot of luck here with the sync issue, I decided to contact Ken and see what he had as far as information goes and if he could give me any kind of insight as to what might be going on with this board because he has the cab. And he made a video and showed me that the inside of the cab, right here where the connectors are, they're just basically separated by a couple of resistors and some ceramic capacitors. So that's obviously not the issue, but one thing I did notice is as I was probing around here, I found that these three ICs seem to control the red, green, and blue. And I removed just the middle one here, and I think that might be, I don't know which one that is, maybe green? But after removing that one, like you could see it pop up with the colors. Oh, obviously, maybe it's not green, or maybe it is green. The red and blue may be remaining, but it seems like it actually made the video a little bit clearer. It's starting to slow down. So I think that there's something combined here with the RGB and the maybe the power that's going to them or something, maybe the signal that's going to it, because by removing one of these, it actually makes it just a little bit clearer for, a few seconds, and then it jumps up there, so the color goes away. But I'm thinking that maybe I might need I don't know, some kind of sync. Yeah, well, Ken mentioned it before, but maybe a sync stripper or something to try and get the image correct. But that's where we're at with this. So far, we're kind of making a little bit of progress, but I need to figure out what we can do with that. I know we do have the RGB adjustments here, but I think that's just for color. It shouldn't be for sync or sync-related issues. Make sure that's in the right way before we power it on. Yep. So, yeah, this is it's definitely doing something that not the best. Really would like it to focus in a little bit here. Yeah, you can see here. Let's see if we mess with the RGB just a little bit. Does it change? It doesn't seem to change very much there. Green. Nope, no change there. Blue. No change. All right, so yeah, the RGB is definitely not changing anything here, at least the pots, but we need to figure out what's going on here and how to get this image a bit clearer. But I'll get on that and see you in a bit. Doing some more probing around the RGB lines, I've noticed that if I do remove the one-socketed green IC here, I'm able to see a more stable image. And I've gone around and tried to make, this is a temporary kind of, what is it, vertical and horizontal sync to composite sync IC here. But unfortunately, it's not doing a whole lot. It has stabilized the image, but it's still, better than before, but it's still quite wavy. And it won't work unless I remove that IC there. I'll show you what it's doing right now. This is also going through a CGA to VGA converter, and this is about as close to stable as I can get this thing to stay. So at least I can read what's going on the screen. But it's not getting any better than this as of right now. I think I really need a different monitor to get this to work. But as you can see, it does say Battletoads there. But one thing I noticed is when I hit the enter button, it is static garbage on screen. It looks like it keeps repeating, and yeah, it looks like my sync signal is like all messed up. But you can see that's all just static garbage there. It's not reading anything. And I was looking around on the board itself, and these, what is it, Fujitsu RAM chips are actually quite strong. The Fujitsu TTLs are really horrible, but the RAM chips are quite strong. But one thing I did notice is this one here, this TMM. These are quite notorious for just outright dying, failing. So what I'm going to do is maybe see if I can piggyback something on that and see if we can get it to boot. I'm not sure if it'll change or not, but it's definitely locked up here. So I'll go and try that out, and we'll see what we get after that. Well, after messing around with the video circuit here, I tried a couple of different things. I tried to create a sync stripper, and I tried to create a negative sync to, or a positive sync to negative sync adapter, and nothing was working with this. But luckily, I did come across a Nintendo Versus PCB. That was an adapter that was given to me by PCB Junkie, and I decided to wire this thing in instead. Luckily for me, he has already created a video circuit for this. So instead of trying to mess around with the wires here, I just decided to make a harness that will fit into the Versus harness from a PC-10. And lo and behold, this seems to work out for the most part. So I'll show you here. Actually, I don't want to ground anything out. Make sure there's nothing going on. So let's pop on the old power and check some of that. As you can see, our video is much more stable. There's a little bit of shaking going on here, but I'm sure that can be expected just because of the video sync issues here. And it does jump up after a while. It'll actually go for the full screen. It's kind of, there we go. So we're kind of getting what should be a natural picture here. I believe this is what it looks like. And it is reading the game. And fortunately, or unfortunately, I should say, is when we press the enter button, you can hear some humming in the background, and it appears to be playing, but it is all glitched out. So this is what's happening. It looks similar to a RAM-related error, which it very well could be. It could be the board, the game itself, or it could be the actual motherboard. I'm not sure, but it does seem to be playing in the background as well. It's hard to tell, but and I really don't know exactly what this would look like normally. I think if you press start, maybe it's locked up here. Oh, maybe it's still playing, but yeah, you can see character select, and okay, well, it just jumped us back out for some reason. So it is booting. It is somewhat working, but yeah, it still has a bit of an issue. Now, this is in slot 2. It seems to do this with each one of the slots regardless. And this is the main game. I don't have any other PC-10 games here for this board to test it out. But even putting this in like slot 1, it seems to do the same thing. Also, there's no sound. I'm getting just a kind of humming in the background. See, you can hear there. It seems like the ground for the speakers is missing somehow. You can hear it kind of go high pitch there, but then there's nothing else. So I'm not sure what's up with that. I'm not sure if that's a setting or not. But I'm pretty sure I have this wired correctly in terms of the sound and the buttons here. Yeah, but I don't know what else this thing currently needs. So it's going to definitely need either some RAM for the game or possibly, I don't know if the CPU's bad. I have taken out the Z-Log, and the game does not work without that. So the Z80 is definitely working. But there's only a couple more options here. And if it's the left side of this, it might be something I can find a replacement for, but if it's the right one, that's going to be tricky. I think those PPUs are quite hard to find. But as you can see, this is where we're at as of right now. It's quite interesting. But I'm going to keep plugging away on this and see if I can hopefully figure out what's wrong with it. But that's where we're at. So I'll try and see you in a bit. All right, so after taking a good look at the way the cart fits in here, or the game ROM fits in, and the way everything is kind of interconnected, I started looking at the CPU over here, this RP2A03E, and looking at the RAM that was connected to it, I thought perhaps the Toshiba RAM, which is really notorious for having internal failure issues, might have been the problem. So I removed that out of circuit to see what would happen. And unfortunately, all it did was prevent the game from entering. You couldn't enter into the game. It would show it, but you couldn't enter. So I then turned my attention to this PPU on the side here. And looking at, once again, we have a Toshiba IC here. This is the 74LS or HC373. And I noticed that the lines for this were actually being held high on a couple of them. And I tried to remove that and replace that with a known working one. And after removing this IC, I removed the IC completely and then turned the power on. And I was able to see that the graphics kind of jumped back to life, but there were still some wavy points in it. So I thought maybe I was in the right area around here. But nevertheless, it didn't seem to fix the problem. So I put that back in, and then I turned to what was this. Normally, this is Fujitsu RAM, and I maybe have mentioned this before just a couple of videos ago, but Fujitsu RAM is pretty solid. It generally doesn't die out. It has a really good lifespan. I mean, compared to its counterparts, the TTLs, this stuff is really strong. But if what Ken was saying about the game board being plugged in with he told me the plus 12 volts and the plus 5 volts were actually reversed. So when he plugged it in, yeah, it just stopped loading, and then it came up with that error. That might have been what happened here. But as you can see, this RAM was actually bad. And I replaced it with some Sony RAM here, and now the Sony RAM is almost just as bad as the Toshiba RAM there, but this is the only thing that I had on hand. But I'll let you see what this thing is doing now. Go ahead and pop this on and check some of that. You can see that the screen is now up there, and it does take a couple of seconds for this thing to adjust because it does not like the sync. It may not do it immediately. It might take a couple of seconds. Keep going. Work your way up. Work your way up. Okay, now you're gonna go out of sync. Okay, great. Let me see if I can put this back into sync. Oh no, it's just gonna jump out of sync, isn't it? Okay, let me turn this thing off one more time. Let's see if we can get this thing to stay here, even if it stays on this. Okay, there we go. That's fine. So let's hit the old enter button. You can see Battletoads is there. And voila. We have our Battletoads back in action and working. Now, there still is a matter that we need to address here. You can see there's a title screen, ta-da, which is super awesome. But one thing we need to address is the lack of sound. I don't believe it has sound here. I'll try and start it up. One player. Yeah, there's no sound. It's still just a hum. But you can see that the game itself is playing. But yeah, this is where that ends. It's just this loud humming sound. In fact, if I turn it up a little bit, you'd probably hear it a bit better. Like there's the humming sound. The board is actually working, and the game is up and going, but yeah, there's nothing going on here. So the next step is to check out the audio circuit, and I was already looking at the audio section here before I turned this thing on just now, and I don't know if I mentioned this in the last part because there's been a few days in between, but the audio actually reroutes back here to this LM3900N amp, and it's not producing anything. I need to either get out my audio probe or take a look at this one, but that might be the reason why we're not getting any sound. Hopefully, that'll be the last of the repairs needed for this board, but really happy to see that this thing is consistently booting up. I mean, obviously with a little bit of shaking there, but each time it's coming up with the logo and it's playing the game, so absolutely awesome there. But the next part we'll have to do is try and figure out what's going on with the sound, and hopefully we'll have a good working board. But I'm going to try and get on that, and we'll be back here in a little bit. Well, as you can see here, what I've done is I've removed this amplifier and I've put a socket in its place just so I can do some testing around this. Unfortunately, with the amplifier in there, I wasn't able to get any sound at all. Nothing was coming out. So what I did is I put a socket in place and decided to test some of the lines. As you can see, I've got my audio probe here. It's probably going to be a little bit noisy, and the game is running. But if we take a look at, I'm not sure exactly which line it is. No. There it is. So you can hear we do get sound. I mean, it obviously has a bit of a hum in the background, but so you can hear this maybe a little bit. But yeah, the sound is working, but this amplifier seems to be bad. So I've ordered up another one and put that in there and see if that fixes it. But yeah, you can hear that the sound is working. Coming through my speakers here. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. I've found the kind of source of the problem here. It's just a matter of getting that part ordered up and put in, and then we should be ready to go. So I'll hopefully see you guys here in a couple of days, which would be a couple of seconds in video editing time. And here we are a couple days later. I just wound up getting this amp in here and I pushed it in place. So I figured this would be a good time to check this thing out and see if it actually works or if the sound's there again. So without further ado, let's pop this thing on and check some of that. Oh, I can already hear the hum in the background again. Hopefully that's not the same hum that we had before. Hopefully we'll get something different. Let's start this up. Oh, I'm not really hearing anything. So apparently that amp was not the problem. Yeah, this thing is still just... You can kind of hear it, but it's super, super low. That's like cranked up right there. And I can notice a little bit of glitching going on here. Maybe the thing hasn't been seated right. I'm not sure exactly what this means. Well, I mean, it's better than what it was before. It's putting out something, but it's just seems like it's not powered. I need to figure out maybe something that I've done here, trying to adapt this harness to this board here. Maybe I'm missing some voltage because it's I mean, you can hear it, but it's just got a really bad hum to it. So I need to figure out what's up with this and then go from there. So I guess I'll get back on this thing here and then we'll come back and see what we can find in a minute. All right, so after about a good 2 hours here of trying to troubleshoot this, I think I've come up with a solution. What I did is I took a look at the schematics for a Playchoice dual monitor, and apparently it's a bit of a different setup as far as like the outputs go on it, but it does have some of the essentials that are quite similar. One of those being the ROM boards here. Looking at the connectors for the ROM boards, I found that pin 30 on row A is actually responsible for the audio output. So I followed that all the way back through lines of resistors and eventually came up to pins 1 and 2 on the CPU here. Now, in order to get sound, I found that by testing and probing the first pin and the second pin, I could get almost crystal clear sound. Each one is one single channel. It's a one for the treble, one for the bass. So I was able to track those down to this resistor set here. And by essentially just tapping into these two resistors using a single piece of NAR wire, I wound up severing the small trace down here that was initially connecting the audio output for this, and just ran a straight wire connecting both two pins here up at the top of the resistors, which are directly connected to the audio section on the CPU. And by doing that, I was able to get the sound to play. There doesn't seem to be any other problems with it, but without that, I was getting extreme static, and you could almost barely make out the music, as you could hear in the last clip. But with this seems to work out quite well. So without further ado, let's pop this beast on and check some of that. I think this may be a good solution for those out there who have trouble with the sound not working. But let's let's hit the old enter button. But as you can hear there, we have the sound working perfectly and no issues at all. We've got both channels here, but it's working really, really well. So just by tapping those parts right there, just going direct to the source, I was able to get the sound to work here, and yeah, it's crystal clear. So I think that may be a good solution for anyone out there who's having some difficulty with the sounds not coming out of these Playchoice 10s. But yeah, just crystal clear. Graphics look good. But yeah, that's where we're at on this one here. And one other thing that I wanted to kind of go over and mention is that these boards, the ROM boards, you can see that this one says 2020 on it. So in going back and further checking, there was only about 50 or so of these games that were originally made for the Playchoice 10. This is a knockoff or a bootleg game. And unfortunately for this game in particular, if we go ahead and we take a look at the game, let's turn this thing on here, and we'll press the old enter button. This one's this one's that. Let's see here. Press the start button. My mistake. And if we go down here to 2-player, we'll see that you can essentially choose 2 players by scrolling around on the screen. But if you go to hit the start button, you'll hear start button. The player is selected, but unfortunately for player 2, you can't select anything because after talking with Ken, he also has a Playchoice arcade cabinet that he's using, and he said there is no player 2 start button. And after confirming that through the schematics, I thought, well, that's a kind of a waste here because unfortunately you can only choose one player. But I started thinking about it, and maybe someone out there who's good at PC programming or game ROM hacking, if you could get into this game here and make player 2 and player 1 the same start by changing the code a little bit. I mean, you could still select player 2 here, but putting this one, for example, on player 2 and having the other one on player 1, and then confirming that both players are satisfied with the same character, then pressing the start button, that would allow it to start with 2 players. But as it stands right now, there's no way to choose a second player, so you actually have to reset. It's a bit of a shame here because this is a great it would be a great game to play with 2 players, but unfortunately it only allows you to play one. So something I thought I'd throw out there just for anyone who's maybe possibly good with code and adapting it a little bit. It'd be cool if they could put that on 1 player start. Unfortunately, the way that the arcade cabinets work here, you can't just wire player 1 to player 2 here for the start button. It just doesn't work. So the game is expecting the code to have a separate input. But yeah, just something to think about if possible. But this thing has got awesome sound, just crystal clear, working fantastic. But yeah, if anyone out there is having trouble with sound and not getting any sound out, what I would recommend is going and taking a look at these 2 resistors here. And I think you can probably take it from the back, or you can take it from up front here. But maybe just running a wire all the way down here, and then just severing the trace. I just made a small cut down here to avoid anything else that's possibly causing this to continue that humming and staticky sound. Just going straight to the source, because that will give you crystal clear sound, and you won't have to worry about it. So we go in here and press start. Go and do our 1-player. Just go with Rash. But I can officially say that this arcade PCB is 100% back up and running and saved from the grave. So another awesome arcade board here. Hopefully playable for a little bit longer. A little bit of an adventure here with the graphics not working out so well, and and the player not working out so well. Oh my gosh. Come on. Jeez. Yeah, so once again, doing the one-handed stuff is just ridiculous. But nevertheless, hopefully you enjoyed this journey here through repairs, and like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching me fall to my death. Is there any point to this at all? Probably not. But yeah, this thing is back up and running, so nevertheless, we'll try to get up another vid here, and some other repairs. This one is good to go. So, thanks again for watching. Some catchy music though, isn't it? Oh, nice. He can't even hit me. Ha ha. Just sit here and jam with the music. Alright, that's about enough of that, isn't it?